Here are today's top stories. The 7 Filipino sailors detained in Libya for oil smuggling are set to return home. The Bureau of Internal Revenue reshuffles its field officials to boost its collection efforts. Former rebels claim that the CPP-NPA is gathering funds from Fil-Ams communities in the US and Canada. And the Philippine government expresses its condolences to the kin of the victims of the Ethiopian Airlines crash in Addis Ababa.
Good day, I'm Rom Dulfo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The 7 Filipino sailors who were charged with oil smuggling have been released and are now on their way home. The Philippine government attended to the release and repatriation of the seafarers. Gigi Arcilia Agtay has this report.
The 7 crew members of MT Levante who were detained for almost 2 years in Libya are now on their way home to Manila. They are accompanied by Presidential Advisor on Overseas Filipino Workers Affairs Abdullah Mamao, who personally flew to Libya upon the instructions of President Rodrigo Duterte. Mamao also expressed gratitude for their release on behalf of the Philippine government. The 7 Filipinos were among the 20 crew members who were arrested for allegedly attempting to smuggle 16 million liters of fuel. They have been held in Tripoli since 2017. Last year, Libya released 13 of the vessel's crew members who were taken into custody after the Libyan Coast Guard boarded and seized their Liberian-flagged tanker while anchored on international waters. The 7 were acquitted by the Libyan High Court on February 28. Upon receiving information about their release on March 5, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. thanked the Libyan government and the agency's assistance to National Fund that got the 7 acquitted. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Gigi Arcilia Agtay.
The military strongly supports President Duterte's calls for transparency and full public disclosure of information. In a statement, AFP Public Affairs Office Chief Colonel Noel De Toyato says, quote, "The public has the right to know the right information at the right time. An informed populace is a source of national power, and right information can empower Filipinos of informed decision." In line with this, the AFP conducted its Freedom of Information Cascading and Leveling Seminar to its respective offices and units in Camp Aguinaldo. PCO Assistant Secretary Christian Ablan discussed the contents of the EO, which is the enabling order for FOI and mechanism to promote transparency in the government's administrative process. A group of former rebels reveals the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, is receiving funds from Filipino-American communities in the US and Canada. The Kilusan at Alyansa ng mga dating rebelde or cadre said the Communist Front received funds from the Belgian government and some European countries in the guise of marginalized and pro-poor programs. The group welcomed the move of European leaders to look into the reported funding of EU member countries for activities of the communist group. It says the CPP-NPA and National Democratic Front of the Philippines used legitimate advocacy such as climate change to get funds from Fil-Ams communities in the US and Canada. Over 800,000 violators of various ordinances were arrested by the NCRPO. Topping the list are violators of the smoking ban, followed by curfew and being half naked and drinking in public. 60% were violators of other city and municipal ordinances. The Quezon City Police District still had the biggest number of arrests at 58%, or more than half of all those arrested in Metro Manila. NCRPO Chief Guillermo Eliazar says most of the violators were immediately released after paying a fine or due to humanitarian considerations. The implementation of city and municipal ordinances is part of the NCRPO's peace and order strategy. 4 suspected drug pushers were arrested in Valenzuela City, and the government investigates reports on foreign workers who are not paying income tax. More on these and other news around the metro from Bench Bondong.
4 suspected drug pushers were arrested in a buy-bust operation in Valenzuela City. 2 sachets of suspected shabu and marked money were recovered from the suspects. They will be charged for violation of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act. Meanwhile, the government is looking into reports that a number of foreign workers are not paying income tax. Finance Assistant Secretary Tony Lambino says among them are workers involved in Philippine online gaming operation or POGO. The government is keen on determining the number and identity of foreign workers in the country and find out how they could be made to pay their income taxes. In other news, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology is monitoring all jails to ensure the health of all inmates this summer. The BJMP wants to ensure that all facilities have enough water supply and ventilation. Medical teams will also be on standby to treat sick inmates or those who may contract summer diseases. About 136,000 inmates are under the jurisdiction of the BJMP. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondro.
Still to come, the Bureau of Internal Revenue reshuffles its field officials to boost its collection efforts. Government troopers from Joint Task Force Sulu staged a military offensive against 200 members of the Abu Sayyaf. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
This is Second Bounty Marching on the number, and you're watching.
PCOO is number one, creating media policies that strengthen and improve the welfare of the media. So for instance, one policy is the freedom of information, which basically strengthens our right to information in the Constitution by allowing for more information access. Number two, policy is the Presidential Task Force on Security, AO number one, also championed by your humble public servant, signed by the President. And these two policies have led to the delisting of the Philippines from the world's top countries that are dangerous for journalists. They released a report which removed the Philippines from the list. So after 9 years, since the Maguindanao Massacre, na alis na po tayo doon sa listahan ng mga bansang delikado para sa mga giorno. And the third policy is government media bridge policy. We engage the media so that they find out the challenges, the issues of media in their respective regions and localities. So napakalaga na malaman natin yung problema para malaman din natin kung anong solusyon ang pwede natin gawin collaboratively. I do this because first and foremost, I am a media man. And I will die a media man too.
The Bureau of Internal Revenue reshuffled 8 of its field officials to boost its efforts in meeting the 2.3 trillion peso collection goal for 2019. BIR Commissioner Cesar Dulay has ordered the reassignment of more than 150 key field officials since the start of the year. Most of them are revenue regional directors and district officers who are in the forefront of raising the collection target. The BIR raised this year's collection target from 2.04 trillion pesos in 2018. Among its campaigns to increase collection are Oplan Candado and running after tax evaders. Repairs at the runway of Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA are likely to be finished by Friday, March 15. A statement released by the MIA through its official Facebook page said the repair of the runway is expected to be finished on Friday, March 15. The repair works involved cracks found at the runway caused by successive heavy rains, which caused problems for planes landing at NAIA. The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, welcomes the election spending for this year's midterm elections as a means to boost the economy. NEDA Secretary Ernesto Pernia says election spending increases the demand component of the gross domestic product, or GDP, which makes the economy more active. On the other hand, the policy of supply and demand still applies in the elections, which means a lack of resources needed by candidates for their campaigns will result in price hikes. About 200 members of the Abu Sayyaf in Patikul, Sulu have clashed with government troopers. Brigadier General Reynaldo Pabayo Jr., commander of Joint Task Force Sulu, says the military offensive started last Friday with the aerial bombardment of enemy camps. He says the large group led by Abu Sayyaf leaders Radulan Sahiron and Hajan Sawadjaan has broken up in the offensive. Unconfirmed reports stated 9 or 10 of the terrorists were killed. Meantime, security around Sulu province has been tightened in anticipation of diversionary attacks by the Abu Sayyaf. The Department of Agrarian Reform, or DAR, targets to distribute 12,000 hectares of land in Negros Occidental this year. Meanwhile, Cavite creates a provincial task force against insurgency. More on this and other stories from the provinces from Janice Cave.
In Negros Occidental, the Department of Agrarian Reform aims to distribute at least 12,000 hectares of acquired land for 2019. Under the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, Negros Occidental still has 98,000 hectares of distributable land. DAR Secretary John Castriciones assisted President Rodrigo Duterte in the distribution of certificates of land ownership award to beneficiaries in the province. In Cavite, the local government founded the first provincial task force to end local communist armed conflict. The task force will ensure effective and efficient implementation of Executive Order No. 70 signed by President Rodrigo Duterte. In Zamboanga del Sur, the Department of Public Works and Highways successfully completed 7 flood mitigation projects in flood-prone municipalities. DPWH Regional Office 9 is eyeing to complete 14 ongoing flood mitigation projects in the province this year. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, the Philippine government expresses its condolences to the kin of the victims of the Ethiopian Airlines crash in Addis Ababa. Judmar Fajardo makes 40 points to pull up San Miguel against Northport. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders. In our foreign news, all 157 people aboard an Ethiopian Airlines flight were confirmed dead as Africa's fastest growing airline witnessed the worst ever incident in its history. The incident on Sunday occurred a few minutes after a Boeing 737-800 MAX took off from Addis Ababa's Bole International Airport to Nairobi, Kenya. The plane reportedly crashed around Bishoftu town, some 45 kilometers from the capital Addis Ababa. The aircraft has only been in service for 4 months, flying more than 1,200 hours. Before the incident, an Ethiopian Airlines flight had also encountered a similar catastrophe in 2010 when a jet carrying 90 people plunged into the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Lebanon, leaving all the passengers aboard dead. Meantime, the Kenyan government has formed emergency centers to counsel those affected by the tragedy. The Foreign Affairs Department sent condolences to the families of those on board the Ethiopian Airlines plane that crashed en route from Addis Ababa to Nairobi in Kenya. In a statement, the department, through Assistant Secretary Elmer Cato, says, quote, "The Philippines expresses its condolences to Ethiopia after 149 passengers and 8 crew members were killed when an Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 crashed while en route to Kenya on Sunday. The loved ones of those who perished in the crash of Ethiopian Airlines flight ET302 are in our thoughts and prayers," unquote. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres likewise sent his thoughts to the victims' kin. The International Committee for the Development of Peoples, a partner of the UNICEF in Africa, confirmed that one of its founders, Paolo Dishi, was among the fatalities in the crash. In sports, the San Miguel Beermen and Barangay Ginebra bolstered their chance of making the PBA Philippine Cup quarterfinals after pipping their respective foes at the Smart Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City on Sunday night. The Beermen downed the Northport Batang Pier 113-107, while the Barangay repulsed the conference-leading Phoenix Fuel Masters 197. Junmar Fajardo put up 40 points, 19 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal as the Beermen moved back to solo third place at 6-3, bringing them to within a half game of the rain or shine Elasto Painters for second place. Terence Romeo fired 23 points for the Beermen, while Mo Tautua finished with a career-high 28 points and 13 rebounds. Meanwhile, the Barangay Ginebra Kings survived against the Phoenix Fuel Masters with Japeth Aguilar's defensive play. Calvin Abueva was on his way to a go-ahead layup, but Aguilar met the beast for a clutch block. The Gin Kings took a 3-point lead at the foul line and stopped a desperate attempt by the Fuel Masters to trigger overtime. Task Force Bangon Marawi recognizes young women who volunteered to help the residents of Marawi City. These women motivate fellow residents and bring assurance of a better future. Sweet Lukman filed this report.
Apart from the different government agencies and humanitarian organizations which have extended various assistance to the affected residents of Marawi City, a group of young Maranao women found a way of helping their fellow residents through Katanor. Katanor is a profiling activity spearheaded by Task Force Bangon Marawi to build a comprehensive and consolidated database of all permanent residents of Marawi to help the government improve its design and delivery of services for the city's immediate recovery. Together with the staff from TFBM Field Office, the Department of Social Welfare and Development of Region 10, hijab troopers of the Philippine Army and the Philippine National Police, the UN World Food Program, in partnership with the Mindanao State University main campus, hired a total of 80 Maranao enumerators to facilitate Katanor. The hired enumerators, who are mostly women, worked for the fingerprint, photo taking, and interview of the head of household. As enumerators for the Katanor, these young women have demonstrated resilience and hope with their contagious smiles and positive outlook in life. Rohaida Bangonan Bakarat, 27 years old from Barangay Dayawan, was in a restaurant with her friend when the siege broke out. Rohaida and her friend struggled to get out. Fortunately, she was able to find her mother and together they traveled to Iligan.
It is very unforgettable kasi may mga nadaanan pa kami na nakahalusay na sa baba.
Basma Khalid, 22 years old and a resident of Barangay Sabala, Manao proper, Marawi City, still remembers the fear and hardships she went through during the siege.
Napakasakit po yung nangyari. Hindi po namin in-expect yung pangyayari.
Basma also shares,
Masaya, sobra sarap sa feeling na nakakatulong ka sa kapwa mong IDP.
Kami yung nagiging bridge para sa kinabukasan din ng mga tao dito. Through that, nakakabigay kami ng help sa tao.
Juhaira Salik from Barrio Sikap got more motivated to continue her job after seeing the residents show up for Katanor registration.
Namomotivate ako every time na kita mo lang yung mga IDP na grabe yung experience nila during the siege.
They also urge their fellow women that they too can help in their own way.
Gusto kong sabihin sa kapwa kong mga kababayan, huwag kayong sumuko sa buhay. Kahit mag-struggle kayo, yung mga maraming challenges na dumating sa buhay nyo, basta may pananalig lang kayo sa Diyos, sa Allah, hindi talaga kayo pababayaan.
Para sa mga kababayan ko sa Marawi, kapwa ko po Maranaos, mas lakasan pa po natin yung loob natin. Kasi kung nakaya natin yung Marawi siege, wala na tayong ibang hindi kayang lampasan kasi nakaya na po natin lahat.
At young age, these women prove that they can contribute to the recovery of Marawi, the place they call their very home. May their story inspire other women not to lose hope and remain empowered amid crisis and struggles in life. Together with Lou Antonio for PNA Newsroom, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. To boost the government's immunization efforts, the Health Department proposed for students to be vaccinated before they can enroll in school. How will this measure affect students, and will it entice more people to avail of the immunization program? Let's find out in today's Boses ng Masa.
Hindi po ako pabor doon sa sinusulong ng DepEd na no vaccination, no acceptance sa elementary policy. Kasi hindi ito dapat maging sagabal sa pag-unlad ng isang bata. So, siguro yun ay responsibility na ng magulang kung pababakunahan siya or hindi.
Oo, okay. Okay, makakatulong yung mabaksinan sila para hindi sila natititano kung anong may, di ba? May safe sila ba? Eskwelahan, pag nabakuna, may sila, baksin, may maglaro-laro kung saan-saan, susugatan, di ba? Depensa din yun.
Siguro, para sa akin na, hindi na kailangan. Siguro, kung sa susunod na mga na lang, paglaki ng bata, kasi bilang magulang, baby pa lang, complete vaccination na.
Wala namang kinalaman yun dun sa kanila. Titingnan natin kung gusto ng magulang na pabakunahan yung kanilang mga bata. Tingin ko hindi dapat idama yung no vaccination, no enrollment. Mahirap yun
Hindi naman tama yung hindi nila pag-i-enrollin porket hindi na bakunahan. Kasi pag ganun, may makakaibat ding batas kung sakaling gano'n ang ipapatupad nila, hindi naman po pwede na i-implement nila nung walang batas tayong sinusunod.
Mukhang yung rights ng tao na pag ayaw mo dahil natatakot ka. Hindi, dapat huwag mong sundin. So, yung consequences ng pag-ayaw mo, you bear it na lang. Ganun mangyayari, di ba?
Let's take another look at today's top stories.
The 7 Filipino sailors detained in Libya for oil smuggling are set to return home. The Bureau of Internal Revenue reshuffles its field officials to boost its collection efforts. Former rebels claim that the CPP-NPA is gathering funds from Fil-Ams communities in the US and Canada. And the Philippine government expresses its condolences to the kin of the victims of the Ethiopian Airlines crash in Addis Ababa.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags on all our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Rom Dulfo. Good day.